All right, so Contour Assistant, our final session. I hope that this is a session that you can take home with you and add value to your farm, because there's a lot of you that have this, and for those that don't, I feel like it's the probably the number one unlock on the Fendt tractor that is most readily available for the widest audience. So I hope that this will make sense after seeing what it does. I'm sure you've all had the situation where you have wanted to plant a couple rounds around the outside of your field, and you simply want guidance around every side. And perhaps you're used to creating an AB line or a contour line along every side of your field, and then manually selecting from your list of way lines every time you take a turn, and so forth. There is a better way. So with Contour Assist, I have generated these way lines based off the boundary itself. And I'm now simply going to demonstrate how it works before I show you how to set it up. So I'm going to go ahead, start driving, engage my auto guide. I already did the first round, at least partially. And so you can see that I'm now planting my second round, and I am aligned with what I call segment 4, the north side of the field. So here at the edge of the field, to manually turn and watch what happens with the way lines here. See how the next ones automatically populate based on my location in the field. So because I'm on the west end of the field, traveling north and south, it knows that's the way line to pop up for me. So all I do is engage my auto steer, and away I go. And again, engage my auto steer. So there's really not a whole lot to using Contour Assist. It does the work for you, and you can keep going indefinitely. Typically, you'll find that this is useful, particularly for your outside 2 or 3 rounds, after which you may want to use your traditional AB again. I'm just going to cut this corner short for the sake of time. There we go. So that, in 1 minute, is Contour Assistant. So how to actually use this? I'm going to switch fields for that, and we're going to start from scratch and see how to set this up. So let's go into my Contour Assist playground area here. Load that. Don't want to create a task. Empty, blank page here. So first thing that you will typically want to do when you are using Contour Assistant is to create a boundary, and you've heard lots about that today already. So here again, boundary is a key part of this feature. So I'm going to create a boundary at this time, and my aim is, when I'm done, is to create these segments, these way lines, off the boundary itself. All right. So, and just for fun, I'm going to change my implement to paint when I lower it. Right now it's painting on auto guide. There we go. Just so we can see a bit more what's happening. All right. So I'm going to create a new boundary based on my worked area, which is off the implement, not off the tractor. And this is highly recommended if you're planting. Record your boundaries based off your worked area, else it will not properly match your actual field contours. I'm going to go off the right-hand side. And I'm going to lower my planter and start recording my boundary. I'm just going to make this field smaller. So you can see the red line happening there on the one side. go. Automatically caught on. I'm at the end of the boundaries. It asks me if I want to stop the recording, which I do. I'm going to save it inside this field. It's 0.2 acres. There it is. Okay, so now I want to generate waylines based off this field, a boundary. This field is pretty typical in the sense that there's no straight edges, which is kind of real life around here, sadly. So we're going to create a new type of wayline, just like your AB, but instead of AB, it's going to be contour segment mode. If you have your contour assistant unlocked, these top two lines will be there. So contour segment mode, and I'm going to generate my segments from the boundary. I can also record them individually, which we might talk about a bit later, or use existing waylines, but I'm going to generate these from the boundary that we just created. And here it asks, how many segments do I want to create based off this boundary? So in a more or less square field, typical segment count would be 4. I'm going to enter that, and we can see how it smartly decides where those segments could be. I could experiment and just put in 5 and see if I like that better. It looks like it splits my north field side into two way lines, which I don't like. So I'm going to revert back to 4. And there's a wayline optimization here, which if you look at what happens at the intersection of these segments, you'll see that there's a bit of a shift. So because this is a pretty symmetrical field, there's not much change here, but it does clean up those corners a little bit depending on the angle. So you can play with that and decide, hey, is this better, or would I rather leave that unfiltered, which in this case I do. All right, done. And this group of segments, I can save it with a wayline name. I'm just going to call it segments from boundary. All right, and save inside my playground field, which is great. Save and load. Here we go. Okay, done. So one last step. You will notice how the segments are created right on the boundary line itself, which clearly will not work. Half your planter will be in your fence line. And so the reason for that is you can now use these same segments for any implement, but you will always need to nudge these segments half of your implement width. So if you have a 40-foot cultivator, you will nudge it over 20 feet. And then if you come in with a 15-foot speed disc, you will nudge it over 7.5 feet, and so on. So there's some logical sense to why that wayline home base needs to be on the boundary itself. So you can do the math based on the implement you might have. So to nudge all segments, there is a new nudge field here that is above my regular nudge field. And what it does is it nudges all segments inside this field. And so I already have entered half my implement width. 2'6" is half of 5. It doesn't really matter if I do left or right. So I'm just going to nudge it the one way, and you'll see them all shifting off of the boundary line. So now, when I go ahead and start painting, I'm going to engage my auto steer, and I'm on my outside line. Let's get inside my field. Let's go up to the west end here. New line loads as I turn the corner, and I can now engage my line. Notice that this here too looks different now. So rather than simply telling me which wayline I'm on, it tells me first which segment I'm on, segment 1, which is the west end of the field, and wayline -1, right? So as I turn, I am now on segment 2, wayline -4, and so on. Okay. That is the quick setup. Suppose now, though, that I want to have a straight line to plant after my 2 rounds are done. How do I do that? Well, several ways. Probably the easiest is to record an A-B line while I'm generating the boundary. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but while we're recording a boundary here, I can also at the same time record an A-B line. And I can then, once I've got my 2 outside rounds done, I can go into my waylines list, and had I generated an A-B line, it would be right here for me to select, and I can finish the field that way. Another option, if one of my sides of the field is actually relatively straight, I'm going to go into my segment manager here and just take a look at my segments. So I see segment 2 here. Let's say I'm satisfied with that. I want to just continue planting along that end of the field with that slight kink in the line. I'm good with that. So I can pin segment 2 to be my only line that loads. So I'm going to select segment 2 and pin it. I can also pin it from the main screen itself. Simply the pin icon will pin whichever segment I'm currently on, which in this case is also segment 2. So now what happens is I can finish the field based on this particular side of the field. And if I turn at the headland, it no longer automatically populates the alternative available segments. Another little hack, if you wish to incorporate a straight line into your contour segments, you can do that. So let's do it like this. I'm going to generate an AB quick here. Let's just quick make an AB. Actually, to even go, yeah, I'll do that. It's fine. Drop my B. It'll be fine. Just going to save it. Okay, so now here is what I was trying to say with being able to select my AB from the list as an alternative to this segments themselves. But I can also merge that AB into the segment group. So if I go into my segment settings, I can add new segments. And here's my AB that I just recorded. Yes, that's the one. So now I have 5 segments, and number 4 is the one that I just added, right? So think now if I would have made that AB while recording the boundary, that it would be up on that edge of the field. So after my 2 rounds are done, I can pin number 4, right? And it's done. So that is possible. What else? A little hack on how to create a straight line on the boundary itself would be to, let's just make a new boundary. I'm going to record worked area on the right-hand side. Let's get situated here first. Overwrite, yes. Okay. So I'm going to start recording my new boundary. I just remembered one thing. I have to, for this to work, I have to record either based off the tractor or turn off my coverage in order to string a straight line. So I'm going to do the latter. My coverage trigger currently is on my red remote. I'm going to turn off my paint. See how my boundary is on red to white? So it's simply going to snap a straight line from where I paused my recording. Press presently it's on pause. As soon as I turn on my coverage again, it's going to snap that line. So let's do it right here. There we go. And what that did is created a perfectly straight side to my field. So now when I generate my segment edge, and I can use that as my segment if I wish. Remember though, that while in theory this is a perfectly straight line, in technicality, it's still a contour. So it might have a bit of a kink on the one end, depending how it decides to treat it. And it's still, I feel, a good rule of thumb to generate an actual AB if you truly want to be straight. So I'm going to create my boundary. I'm going to create my segments from the boundary into 4 different segments. And my straight line went from about there to about there, right? That's where I had approximately hit the pause. And let's suppose I want to pin that one. So I'm going to accept my 4 different lines, load them. Let's get over to my segment 1. There we go. Suppose I want to finish the field on that contour, I can simply pin it. Now, as you may have noticed, I did not yet nudge all the lines over half the implement width, so currently that would not bring good results. Need to nudge them all once, done. Right, pin this segment, finish the field on a more or less straight line. What else? I can also simply record segments. So how do I do that? So I'm going to create, first I'm going to delete what I have so that it's less confusing. And I'm going to get rid of my coverage. All right. Actually, I'm going to just start it all over. Let's delete the boundary as well. To record my segment. So contour segment mode, record them. So I'm going to record one on this end of the field. I'm going to stop it there. Start my next one. Stop it here. Start next one. And my final one. Done. And if I hit the stop button again, it finishes it. And here's my segments. I'm going to load them. They all are there. Now you may have noticed I didn't actually even have a boundary there. I can still create a boundary if I wish. I'm going to create the boundary based off the contour segment. This is not the most accurate way to create your boundary as a warning, but it is a quick way. So now I have a boundary to my field. Okay, a couple more little things. So I'm going to get over closer to the building, so hopefully your connection remains strong to me. In the contour segment manager here, I can also rename them. So suppose I want to rename my number 3 north. Great, done. Suppose now I want 3 and 4 to be one segment for some reason. I'd rather have that be a curved contour. That is also possible. So I'm going to merge 3 with number 4. All right. And it tells me a couple different ways that is possible. I can toggle through the ways, and this is what I had in mind. So I can do that. I wish. And I'd rather not, so I'm going to cancel that. I can delete individual segments, and like I told you earlier, I can include more in here with separately recorded A/B lines, for example. Okay, what did I miss? Any questions for me so far?
Is that answering your question that you asked me there, John? Why don't you ask Leon the question you asked?
Okay, sorry, I'm not hearing you right now. If you don't mind just repeating that.
You hear me?
Now I can. Yep.
If I do the outside round
Mhm.
and contour and what am I doing wrong? Come to the headland and go across it again, rather than going around the field. I turn around to make one more pass back before I start going back to the other end and do the same, make one more round in the headland. How do you do that? That you have a line to follow rather than put your marker down.
Okay, I'm not sure if I understand. I could hear you fine. I'm not sure if I quite understand your question though. So you want to be able to complete several rounds around your field? Is that your question, or specifically the headlands that you were asking about?
I think it's specifically the headland. He wants to do one round, and then he wants to be able to do just the headland one extra or two extra times.
Sure, sure. Yep. Yep. So, all right. Suppose segment 2 is my headland. So I'm going to lift my planter here and turn around. All right. So I'm going to do the second pass in my headland here, drop my planter. I'll engage my auto guide. I grabbed the wrong line, sorry. There we go. So if I'd be really serious, I could pin my headland, but I'm not going to bother because the tractor can also smartly detect. Now I lift my planter, come around again. As is obvious to all, this would be a poor planting job. There's a reason you don't hire me to plant your corn, John. Okay, so, and I just can keep going with that specific routine. So there it is again. I engage my auto steer, drop my planter, and I can finish my headland. I'm not sure if that answers your question, so go ahead and clarify if it does not.
Yeah, he's shaking, he's nodding his head, so I think he's understanding
Great.
it. Is there any other questions? If not, then I think that concludes your session. Are you done, Leon?
I think so, yes. If you do not have this unlock, it is also the cheapest unlock from Fendt. So just talk to Alan or any of the sales guys and we can help you get this. I feel it's well worth the money. I don't have the price right off the top, but we can get that for you.
All right, and Robert has another comment for us here.
I'll add one final comment that on contour segments. Obviously, Leon's doing this in the corner of the field here, and time, time takes when you're sitting in the field and it's time to plant. We had a conversation during the break. This can be independently done, not in the field, right? So as long as we have a boundary in the tractor, we can do this in the shop now for all of your fields, right? So the question got asked about importing these into the field or being able to do them accurately without taking the tractor out there. So we have some different offboard tools that you can utilize a different GPS system. It could be any aftermarket system that gets utilized, such as a Trimble, an Ag Leader system, Raven says, doesn't matter. You could go and use a different aftermarket system that you may already have to use a UTV or something of that nature to create the boundary in the off season if you want it. Or like we mentioned before in the software. So we can import these now into this tractor in the wintertime, create all those guidance lines with the boundaries we've created in the off season, right in the office. That way, when you go out to this field and you choose the playground here or the field he's in, all your guidance lines are ready to go for those headlands. So it can be done prior to the corner of the field if we have those boundaries created ahead of time. So if you need help with that, or you want to do that this season or practice that before you get out, just let one of us know and we'll be able to help you.
Perfect. Any other questions? About the whole day or yesterday, for those of you that were here yesterday. Now's the time. We have one, that's perfect.
Can your tractors, machines talk to each other? Like, let's say you're doing an application, more than one machine. Can another tractor pick up that AB line or coverage map?
So, Robert, do you want to break the news?
We're going to let Robert answer this one because we want to make sure that he understands what we're talking about here.
I think I've heard this a time or two. So there are a couple different functions to which I want to clarify what you're asking. One is machine-to-machine guidance line sharing, so meaning trading from, so the next machine in line has the same guidance line, and number two would be sharing the coverage. So those two things are different and will come at different times from Fendt. Both we do not have the option to do today with the wheel tractors or any tractors. We have that ability in both the Fendt Ideal Combine and just launched with the Gleaner Combine. So both of those have the ability and will come shortly after that, this launch with the Gleaner into the tractors. It is being tested and validated now. No release date as of now, but the machine-to-machine line sharing will come first, and then the coverage will come after that. So not today in the wheel tractors, but that's the ability there. We will have the ability before that, more in recent, as up to the next, within the next 12 months, we should see a launch of that. I mentioned the FendtONE offboard, where if you have TaskDoc Pro, as we mentioned, the wireless transfer of information, as you're done with the field or you book the end of your task, if you have a task running, that data will go back to the offboard, and that offboard will act as a master that will populate the rest of the tractors in the fleet. So it will have to come back to the computer first and then do it. So in short order, you'll have more than one option for that, depending on what you want to do. If you want to edit them and so forth, if it isn't right, but we will have that coming shortly.
All right, that was a good question, and we hear it a lot. So the short answer is no.
And yes, I think Maple Lane has been a strong advocate to Fendt, as Robert will know, to beg for this option. So we're thankful that it's coming.
Yeah, we've had lots of conversations about that.